Afternoon, everyone. This is Dr. Kailash Sant. I'm an ENT surgeon and a skull-based neuroendoscopy surgeon working in Sahyadri Hospital since last 16 to 17 years. And I'm in practice for 35 years in Pune. We are going to discuss today the, the new wave of disease that is mucormycosis. Everyone knows, and from the media, everyone understands that it is black fungus. Let me tell you first that this is not a real black colored fungus. The effect of this fungus on the body is black, and that is why it has become a black fungus. How? Because it is an invasive type of fungus. Basically, there are two types of fungi which affect the human body. One is non-invasive, which many of the people have realized it during the rainy season that they get it in the ear, and that is a non-invasive fungus. Whereas this particular mucormycosis belongs to the invasive type of fungi. Now, mucormycosis belongs to the Mucorales group, and they have their spores. Where are they? They are ubiquitous. Everywhere they are in the air, they are in your nose, my nose, everywhere. They are also in the soil. They are also on wet surfaces around the environment. So potentially everyone can get mucormycosis as a infection. But is it that this COVID only started this mucormycosis? No. We doctors were seeing this mucormycosis as an infection for last many years. And the targeted population for mucor in those days was immunocompromised patients. Organ transplants patients are on immunosuppressant medication so that the organ lives in the donors, in the recipient's body. So immunosuppressants make the body immune compromised. There were diseases like HIV and other diseases where immunocompromised status was also rampant. And in those patients, we used to see the mucormycosis. The treatment part, yes, the treatment then and today almost is the same, except for one condition is the COVID status. Now, why COVID has caused this mucormycosis in India? People ask me, doctors from abroad also ask me, what is there that you people are getting it and we are not seeing it? Well, I would suggest that this is everywhere in abroad, here, but the conditions of the patients makes them vulnerable. Now, COVID, most probably the second strain is more important because in the first strain, in the first phase, we used to see mucormycosis. We have operated mucormycosis, but it was not that much in number. Now, in this wave, probably the mutant virus is likely to be the responsible. Second thing, COVID status itself. COVID somehow attacks pancreas. It causes sugar levels high. The use of tocilizumab, use of steroids, which is mandatory. And as a natural reaction to these medicines use, the blood sugar levels are high. And there is a common factor between mucor and blood sugar levels that they like each other. So overall, in an immunocompromised status, the mucor grows more. Now, diabetics who were previously diabetics before getting COVID, diabetics who have become neo-diabetics because of COVID treatment or because of COVID itself, all these people, they are quite vulnerable to this particular disease. And that is why, of course, why in India? From one study, the population of India was about 136 crore in the year 2019, and 77 million people were diabetics, out of which 50%, that is about 38 million, were not knowing that they were diabetics. Out of those 38 million remaining who knew that they were diabetics, 25% only, that is almost about 1 crore plus, they were under control. Now you can imagine 77 million people, that is 7 crores 70 lakh people are vulnerable. Plus add to it the COVID status, plus add to it that neo-diabetics. So obviously we are a very liked population for the mucor. Now, how to know that you have mucormycosis? The earliest symptoms I will just mention in short. One of the symptoms is facial swelling, and facial swelling should be adequately, significantly swollen face, not a little bit of swelling. Also the swelling of the eye, sometimes diminished vision, sometimes inability to open the eye, sometimes total loss of vision. From the facial to the nasal symptoms, the nose feels stuffy. The nose feels that there is a lot of secretion, but the patient cannot bring it out. They are very viscid, they are very thick. And if he tries to bring it out, sometimes a black scab comes out, or sometimes a little bit of blood comes out. And this is only mentioned by the patient as a casual symptom. But if the mucor attacks the palate, then you can get a little blackish or a highly pale patch on the palate with a tooth which is painful. But the most important symptom which immediately makes you feel that this is definitely mucor is in a post-COVID state. Say at about 15 to 20 days after the patient has become all right. I'm not saying COVID negative, because nowadays nobody does COVID test when he's all right. But 15 to 20 days or 3 weeks, and the patient starts getting severe headache. The headache is so much that the patient cannot sleep at night. And that intense headache, sometimes on the temple, sometimes at the back, this should click you that the patient needs further investigation. Now, before going to the first investigation, I would just, in short, explain to you how mucor attacks. This mucor is invasive. And what do you mean by invasive? The invasiveness of mucor is like when वो दहलीज cross कर देता है. That means it crosses the mucosal barrier of the nose and goes inside. And if this is the blood vessel, this fungus, of course, this is not black. This fungus goes inside the blood vessels. As it goes inside, they behave like sisters. The fungus kills the tissue. The fungus kills the blood vessel and progresses. On the way, it all causes a lot of swelling of the surrounding tissues, and it makes it dead. It makes it necrotic. Complete nirjeev bana deta hai. And then this becomes like a small gangrene. Now this gangrene inside the nose starts giving symptoms of some, because this is a dead tissue, some other organisms also grow. Some pus also can form. Some bacteria also grow. It's natural. But after that, what? After that, it starts giving nerves, painful nerves. And that is why that headache comes. And once that happens, it finds out some very easy avenues of blood vessels. Blood vessels are preformed pathways through which the fungus can easily grow deep inside. From the nose, it can go down to the palate. And I can use this chart for your information. And I'll use, now this is the part of the nose which is commonly involved. It is quite deep. And this deep part is related to the sphenoid sinus and to the brain like this, to the eyes from the orbital apex side, and to the palate. So you can understand why this nose is so important, why the sinus infection is so important for controlling the infection going to the eye, from controlling the infection to the going to the brain, and from controlling the infection going to the palate. Now, brain in the sense, it will not directly go to the brain. It will go first to the sides of the sinuses, the carotid arteries, and the orbital apex. The orbital apex means this is the orbit, and the back part of the orbit where the optic nerve is attached to the brain, that part has got fissures, the gaps in the bone. And these gaps, they have got blood vessels. So these are the very simple, this is the simple way of understanding why the nose and the sinus is the cause for palate, eye, and the brain. Now, palate also can get involved with the tooth extraction, and then the fungus goes because of bad oral hygiene and all. That is different. Sometimes you see only the eye involvement, but normally the eye involvement is always secondary to a very deep-seated nasal or sinus infection. Now, how we catch this fungus? The simplest way is an endoscope. This is the endoscope. If I make it lighted, then we, the endoscopist surgeons, we go inside and we have to go so much deep to see the place where it is multiplying or where it is causing. Now, as I said, the fungus is not black. The effect of the fungus is black. What do you mean by the effect? The dead tissue here will be seen black because it has lost its blood supply. It has become dead, and that forms a small scar, small scab, which is seen black on either the middle turbinate or the inferior turbinate, or deep inside. But all these quadrants of the nose, they're so deep that common nasal examination at this level or this level, we may miss. And that is why the endoscopy is very, very important. Of course, it is different that this endoscope is only used for removing this by endoscopic surgery, but that is a surgical part, the treatment part, which will come later. Now, having understood this, how it goes from nose, sinuses, to the eye, to the brain, to the palate, the commonest thing first involves is the eye, and then the palate. This is the common observation. It's not necessary that it has to be the same way, but it is the common observation. Second common observation is, if the nose thing is picked up fast, and if this is cleared from the body, then the effects of treatment are good. So now we come to the treatment part of it. We have seen how it happens. We have seen how it is to be diagnosed. Now, what we do with the diagnosis, we send a small piece of that scar or that scab and some deep tissue for pathology or microbiology lab, where they do KOH staining and they do calca-flu staining. KOH and calca-flu staining will give you the aseptic hyphae, typical picture of the fungus, which are asepted hyphae with a right angle branching. But that is a technical part. So this biopsy, you get a report in 24 hours. So you are sure that once this particular diagnostic endoscopy with biopsy is done, you are sure to get the diagnosis of mucor, if it is present or not, in 24 hours. The moment it is confirmed, we start with the medication. Side by side, the eye surgeon comes into picture. He also looks for earliest signs. Even if there are no symptoms, we have to see the signs. And we get a rough idea how much is the spread. But how? The third eye has to come into picture, and that is our investigation from the point of view of imaging studies. And that is MRI, CT scan. But an MRI is not a simple MRI. It is a gadolinium contrast. And why? As I said earlier, the fungus grows through the eye, through the blood vessels. It will go to the deluge where it stops. At the time of MRI with gadolinium contrast is the contrast which is given through the veins. It reaches the brain, it reaches the circulation, it reaches the place where the blood vessels are intact. The blood vessels which are involved are here. The intact blood vessels are here. So whatever the contrast shows that the blood vessels are intact, that is the part which is not involved roughly by the mucor. So what is to be removed is the thing which is not involved, is the thing which is not enhanced. Added to it, a CT scan of the sinuses and everything will give us an information. And then, of course, we go for a quick investigation point of view, quick fitness for surgery, and then the patient is subjected to surgery. Of course, with this, the infectious disease specialist has already taken over the patient from the day one, first minute. He has stopped the steroids at once. He has stopped the sugar going beyond certain limits. And he has seen that everything else, parameters, the cardiac, the lungs, and everything is clear for surgery. Because the surgery, as early as possible, when it removes all the dead material, then the medicines will act, because the amphotericin is given IV. Even the medicines which are given orally, that is posaconazole tablet or things, they will also go through the blood only to reach the disease site. So ultimately, it is the vessels which help us to bring the medicine to kill the fungus, whereas the fungus is also using the vessels to reach out to grow itself. So these are the two avenues, these are the two things which are using the blood vessels. And so we remove the part of the dead tissue with the help of this endoscope, attached camera, and magnified vision with different instruments like debriders, plain instruments, cobbleters, and all. And once the surgery is finished, the amphotericin B, posaconazole, and all the other antifungal agents, of course, with everything, other function of the kidneys and the lungs and everything is taken care of. So basically, this is a disease which gives, I'm not saying opportunity to all the doctors, but this disease involves all the faculties. The infectious disease surgeon, the infectious disease specialist to take care of the antifungal medication and other medication, general physician to take care of even the diabetologist, the diabetes. Third, the imaging person, that is radiologist, the pathologist, microbiologist to diagnose it, to guide us. The nephrologist is also there, that the kidney function is normal, because amphotericin B and all antifungals, they have side effects of kidney. And last but not the least, we, with the eye surgeon and the oral and maxillofacial surgeon, come into picture whenever and whatever involved tissue or the organ is. So with this, I can say, in short, in case it is diagnosed very early stage, then the control of the disease and the cure, of course, the cure takes long time. It's a long drawn war, but it definitely cures the patient. And we are there for all these patients to work for months together. Because if we have done proper surgery, if you have given adequate amphotericin B, if you have taken all the other precautions to keep the patient's general condition good, his food his food is taken care of, then the patient can become all right in a particular number of days, depending on the extent of the disease. But one must remember here that one surgery done, one course of amphotericin be given, all the other parameters are maintained, and the patient is going home, doesn't mean that the treatment is over. Why? Because what my endoscope cannot see, what MRI, CT scan cannot detect, the amphotericin B knows where the fungus is. वो तो कर्दन काल है, amphotericin B छोड़ता नहीं है fungus को. So amphotericin B or similar antifungal agents have to be given for a long time, so that whatever we have not seen through the surgery, whatever we have not seen through the eyes of MRI, The amphotericin B is collecting all the fungus together. And if it forms some small things in the palate, like small abscess, we go back after 2 months, 3 months, remove it. If it goes to the teeth, we go back, remove the teeth. So it's like collecting, containing the fungus. At one point of time, we achieve complete cure. But that is a long drawn war, and everybody must understand that treatment success depends on many doctors at a time, plus many months or many weeks treatment for every patient. Thank you. Now, I will take the questions.